The other little job I want to do is this throttle lever is just rubbing off the battery. You can see where it was rubbing there for a while. And if you look up here, you'll see there's a nut welded on there and there. So what I need to do is I need to get this battery moving forward a bit. There's a bit more room there. And I'll put a spacer in behind it there. Even if it's a bit of timber or something like that. I'll try and maybe wrap it in rubber, black rubber maybe, to make it less standy outy kind of. And we'll move that forward, and that'll stop that rubbing, because that's obviously, you know, making the throttle lever a little bit more awkward to use and a bit stiffer. I'm cutting off the two nuts with a hacksaw. I didn't want to use an angle grinder for obvious reasons with the fuel tank, and that's going to allow the battery to come forward a bit. So I'll give everything a bit of a clean out there and make sure there's no battery acid running on there. It shouldn't be anyway. And I'm going to continue filing these nice and flat. I'm just going to touch them up then with a bit of primer and paint just to stop them rusting. After making this wooden spacer, and that is going to go in behind the battery. As you can see there, now that the battery's moved forward, it's clearing the throttle linkage. I just put a bit of undercoat on that, so whenever we do get paint sorted, I can give that a touch up. And I touched up any of the other little bit linkages there as well that I fitted. So the ones that were on it originally were kind of more homemade kind of job. So I suppose back in the day, I suppose you had to make do, and there was jobs to be done, so you did what you had to do to get things going. So, and there's a hole around here, so I'm going to be able to bolt that timber, keep it nice and steady just in there. So that'll keep it right. Just to push the battery over obviously a bit. That's a 1000 cold cranking amps battery. That's a monster of a battery. That's exactly what I fit to these diesel engines. The best chance of starting. So yes, that is another little job on the way to being done. And I just bent that copper injector spill off pipe. I just straightened it up a little bit, keep it out of the way of the battery and of the fuel tank there as well. While I have the battery cover out and the battery out, I'm just going to check the steering box for these originally were filled with oil, but I find grease is far better because it just takes up a bit more yeah, and there's plenty in it. You can see it right there. So I'll get the torch. Looks like there's grease in it already, which is good news if you look in there. I way prefer to put grease in them because two reasons. I've replaced the oil seals on the steering boxes before, only to find that they ended up leaking. They were a pig to put in and they didn't look like the originals. And then I realised after I stripped two steering boxes to do them up and all that, that grease is just better. It does a better job. It'll cling to the gears, and yeah, oil just seems to, I don't know, attract water as well. So I found every steering box I was working on always had water in the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to position my timber spacer in there and try and find somewhere where I can fit it. And I'm hoping that's going to clamp the battery down, keep it pushed forward at the same time, keep it steady so that it's not hitting off the bonnet and stuff. So there was a rattle on in this bracket there. So I've tried tightening that up. It's tightening as much as it's going to. So I'm going to remove it again now and put a bit of rubber strip under there and a washer there, and that'll help stop it, because that's not what you want to hear after you're getting a full nut and bolt restoration on your engine. But these are very torquey engines, so any rattles I find are very they can be pronounced because of the 3-cylinder engine. So let's try and get it out of it. So there it is, a coach bolt, 2 washers, but the reason why it wasn't tightening up fully is you can see the threads end. So what I'm going to do is I have a pile of these blue rubber lads, and they're just, I don't know where I got them, but they're bloody handy. So what I do is I get a hammer, punch that I match up whatever width I need roughly, that'll do it. Punch a hole in the middle of it, like so, put it through, and Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt. We'll bring it back over now and get that fitted with the rubber. And this bit of rubber will also help this tighten a bit better as well, because it was running out of thread and there was still a rattle on it, so it'll help with that. Just be a little bit awkward to get it lined up, so we'll get a pick at it. Now, there we go. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to put a bit of anti-seize on it, and that will just help stop any rust. Again, it's that Loctite stuff, fantastic stuff. And you just literally wipe the residue away. But what it'll do is it'll stop any rust settling in. Magic stuff altogether. So that's coach bolts through. There's 2 washers here, so we'll use them again. 1, 2, and the nut. Bit of pressure on the coach bolt to get the square head started. It's captive, and then give them a tighten with the socket. That has disappeared. I'll find it and come back. Stop looking, I found it. Oh yeah, that's feeling a lot better now. Okay. No rattle there. We'll give all these a little nip and rat it. Make sure there's only a 10 spanner for that. Okay. That's good. Lovely. Okay, I'm happy with that. So, just looking at the bonnet rubber there. It likes to come off like a lot of them do. I can ask the owner about maybe sticking that on a little bit, semi-permanent we'll say, so that maybe with something silicone based that you can actually remove it if you have to. And I'm going to look and see, would it benefit from a bit of rubber on that as well. I think they usually used to have them on that. I think that rubber is meant to be on there. On my own 35 it is, but it's nice on it. But I do have stuff that I can put on there. I'll ask the owner, see what he thinks, and it might just look the part as well. Another little thing I'm after noticing here, since we're talking about rattles, the Circlip isn't after clicking into the slot around that, because there's a washer behind it. So I'm going to remove the Circlip, remove the washer. Now I'm going to want to make sure that that's going to make a nice connection there. You know, it's not going to be rattling. So I might try and put a rubber washer behind the Circlip, and what that'll do is, and put a bit of grease down in there, and what that'll do is it should take all of that rattling out of it. I've tightened up all of these and checked them so there's no rattling. There, the badge at the front is okay. It's rubber mounted, so I'm happy with that. Just making sure everything is going okay there. It looks like it is. This is an aluminium washer, so definitely it's more suited to a fuel system. Here is your latch, and there is the Circlip. So there is a slot there, if we get it to focus. focus, yeah. And that's where your circlip goes in. So this was held down, you can really see the marker was actually just sitting on, so it was only a matter of time before this would have fallen out. So we can get rid of him, and I'm going to have a look here and see how I'm fixed for space to put a nice rubber washer in. Because if I could put a rubber washer in here, what it would mean is it would be nice and snug, to be a bit of a, you're pushing down on it, you kind of be able to push against the rubber. So I'm ragging there because I didn't want to damage the paint when I was taking out the Circlip. So that's it held in place, and as you can see there is a little bit of space in there. So I'd like to take that space up with a rubber washer, and I think a bit of grease then between the two, you'd have a nice snug fit. So after looking online, these are what's known as a flare washer. So they have to be flared underneath, and what's happening there, because they aren't, the Circlip can't be used. So I'm going to have to flare them, I'd say, or I can grind them if I want, or file them a little bit shorter, and then put on my rubber washer, and then it'll be perfect. Because the videos I saw online, people are actually modifying them by shortening them and fitting a rubber washer. You actually get a kind of a snugger fit then, and it's one less rattle as well. So I'm going to pop them out and see what's the best option. So on some of them videos online, they actually got rid of this part and they changed it for a washer. So I'm not going to get rid of that. I'm after filing it a bit shorter, because I think it's part of the look of this tractor from the outside. Here I fitted on a nice rubber washer, so I put this back in, and then rather than metal on metal, the rubber washer, if this all goes to plan, I'd be able to grease it. But what I did do is, because now this is the bit that gets me. Hopefully you can see this. The slit for the Circlip is right up there at the top. I've cut a new slit, so I'm going to use that, because when you fit this, it's covered, the slit for the Circlip, the one that was there from factory. So I don't know how they were expecting anyone to ever use this sleeve when you have the thickness of the bonnet there as well, because it's stuck through that. So it you know, every day is a school day, I suppose, but this is how I'm getting around it. I'm after cutting a slit around that for the Circlip. So I'm going to try and piece it together, and if it pieces together well, I'll take it apart again, just put a bit of that anti-seize grease on it. What after doing here is I had to cut a new slot around the latch. I put in my what you call them, split pin, the Circlip. I put a washer behind it, and it's rubber mounted on the top here. So now when it's pulling down against this, when this gets this little grab on that, what you have is you have something that's rubber mounted. That should stop a lot of the rattles and stuff. So it's nice and quiet now, and everything is working the way it should. So that's, we're going to call that a job oxo there. So put a bit of that kind of grey grease in there. So that was going to fall off at some point, definitely. This one is missing in action, so there's actually a bit of too much grease on it. That's no problem at all. We'll give that a wipe of rag. So this one is missing in action, and you can see as well how loose they were, that it was actually scratching paint off these. So I think through fitting the little rubber washer on there, that'll just keep that up a little bit higher, and it'll stop it from hitting the coach bolts there as well, and from maybe, as you can see, it did at some point scratch a little bit there. So that'll stop that happening in the future. So look, I know it's been a bit long-winded about one little part, but I suppose whatever tool they used in the factory, it's not really, it probably isn't available to everyone. flaring tools I've used are for oil pipes or fuel pipes. What I did myself as a flare tool was I took a coach bolt like this and I filed a bit of a wedge on each edge and I pulled it in. And through doing that, what it did was it actually flared it for me. I think there it is there. So you probably can see a bit of a slight wedge filed on it there. And I turned it a little bit and I tightened it in, and slowly but surely it started flaring it, the end of that, to the point where it was actually stuck in there. So I'd say it wouldn't take a whole lot to get that to actually fall out. And if that falls out, this falls out. But in this case, the circlip was only sitting around the shaft of that latch. It wasn't actually in the in the slot, and that's why I had to cut a new slot. So we'll get that one sorted as well. So that's the story of the latch. And yeah, we're going to move on. I'm waiting for this to dry, and then I'm going to fit that, put the battery back in. I'm going to have a look at the other battery lead. I think I might do a little job on it. I usually do a little job on these now, where I put in a little sleeve over that wire, and then when I tighten these down, it just makes a better connection, because these can be a little bit, you know, not mighty. So I'll look for a better earth lead, maybe one bolt heads, so you can get a good nip on it. So look, there's the next probably job or two that I'll get at them probably tomorrow evening.